Welcome to the best damn arm wrestling sports show with Scott Wynn and Reza Domaganian. What's up, Scott?
Not too much, brother. How you doing?
Doing good, Bubba. It was interesting watching that match today.
Oh man, that made my day, dude. I'm still tickled, man. I swear to God, it fucking like literally made my day. I was screaming at 10 a.m. this morning, 10:30. My neighbors are probably saying, "What the hell's going on?" I was just like, all three matches too were definitely entertaining for sure.
Yeah. I was kind of confused with the Michael Todd match. I really expected more out of Michael. I think baffled like a lot of the arm wrestling community. It was kind of crazy to see
Yeah,
him.
man. That's why I was hoping last night we were going to connect to talk before the match because I saw that you were picking Mike and I was like, I got a bone to pick with Reza.
Yeah, definitely. I thought Michael was going to take it. I really did. After the last match they had, how dominant Michael was, and Devon definitely put in the time. You can definitely see it. His body is, his face, his everything, bro. He just blew the fuck up. And
Yeah, I mean, for me, I knew, my feelings going in before even knowing like side by side how much bigger Devon did get. But, my experience and how I've always watched, our arm wrestlers, our elite guys. Devon's always been that guy that to me proves technique over power
yeah,
because that dude could beat guys, you know what I mean, way more stronger than him. And it's because he's fucking a master at what he does. He completely controlled Mike's hand pretty much the whole time,
I didn't
which
I didn't
yeah,
expect him to just have that kind of power.
yeah,
Like after I was in Malaysia when he pulled with Splinkov, and I was one of the officials there. And after that match, he was defeated mentally and physically, and just I was lucky enough to be in a vehicle with him riding back from the tournament, and he just knew what he wanted. Actually, I think that match was in Poland. I'm sorry. I'm not
yeah,
my memory too well, but yeah, it was in Poland. And yeah, on the way back, he was just so determined. He was talking to his friend on the phone and already coming up with a new game plan for how to be better and stronger. And I didn't really see it, I was like, him and
yeah.
Michael pulled, and I really just saw Michael as dominating it, but Devon's hand, his wrist, definitely his shoulder and his tricep. He really kept his hand inside, good connection. He didn't separate. There was totally different match from what we saw at WAL. It was crazy.
100%. I mean, the table, obviously, them losing basically 4 inches.
On the
You know what I
back.
mean? Brought
Yeah.
him in a little bit tighter, which also made me pretty much take Devon because Devon's height and his control is because of the leverage he gets out of that fucking long arm. So when I knew when they were on that table, all he had to do was set up tall and tight and just sit back, dude, and control Mike's hand through the bottom of his palm. Basically, don't let Mike get turned out. And Devon pretty much did exactly that, man. And very impressive.
Yeah, he definitely maintained control. Oh shit.
Okay, my bad.
All good, Bubba. So yeah, like Devon was definitely on a whole nother level. I definitely like going back and like focusing on the match, I think there was only one time that Michael actually almost had Devon in a bad position, and that was the one time he got like a really good hit off the start.
Yeah.
After that, Devon just maintained control in every position. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, like the third match
but
where,
I think he took some advice. If you go back to WAL, Michael Todd versus Travis, there was a match where Travis beat Michael Todd. It was kind of controversial, but Travis was real tall and just snapped right inside on him and
oh,
took,
yeah.
took a W over Michael that day. It was kind of controversial match, but I think Devon kind of saw that as an opening, as a potential opening to stay tall and get his shoulder and just keep
Yeah.
that connection. And with all that power, dude, like again, like 30 to 50 pounds of additional muscle, like
Absolutely,
a
man.
whole
Makes a
difference
difference.
when,
When you're leveraging off your elbow like a teeter totter, bro, that's when weight makes a huge difference.
yeah, the leverage off of it. He
You
was,
know, and, yeah, Devon's hand control, dude, was just phenomenal. You know what I mean? I think even like he beat him on, I think on the last match, he came in and just shoulder rolled him. You know what I mean? Pressed him, and I think he could have done that at any point, you know. And you know, my hat's off to Mike because he didn't, you know what I mean? He didn't get too crazy. He didn't try to go to the desperado move, King's move. You know what I mean?
And Mike, they better connected. I don't know if that's because of the rules that Bill was enforcing or what they negotiated, you know, but it definitely seemed like Michael only separated once. And I think that was when he actually got the hit. That one time where he gets the hit, he really opens up and tries to get that pronation engaged. But every other match, other than that, it didn't seem like he really went into a full King's move. And I think Devon had so much control through here doing this kind of, you know, this rising motion that it took Michael's pronation completely away from him.
Yep.
When you're palm up, there's a lot of rotation you need to engage to get back to a positive position, you know.
Yeah, no doubt about it, dude. And obviously, again, back to the table. You know what I mean? Here you have WAL, who, you know, they
parallel pads, larger elbow pads, you know, and then you go to the traditional arm wrestling table and it's smaller pads, offset elbow pads, offset pin pads, you know. So
with all that said, they didn't do too bad. I mean, they actually did pretty good when it came to the, you know what I mean, getting
their match had less I actually felt that Bill had a tougher time reffing I think it was Ray's match, you know. Ray's match, they kind of went back and forth. There were quite a few fouls that occurred during the match, and it seemed like there was a little more controversy, you know, and it was a little earlier in the tournament, and I was kind of questioning like how they would handle Michael and Devon. After watching that match, I was like, oh shit, they might have their hands full. But Michael was straight up a sportsman, and Devon was just a beast, a dominating fucking beast, bro.
Yeah, and then let's check out some of the other matches like Schoolboy. You know, I had Schoolboy 100%. I won money on the matches, which is pretty cool because in turn it ended up going to Donovan, Jody's sons benefit charity. I forget what it's called exactly, but so like they got at least a couple $100. We got to find out who else owes me money, but mine was definitely I knew for sure Devon was going to win. I knew Schoolboy was going to win almost for the same reasons.
Well, I feel Schoolboy, he's been arm wrestling since he was a little kid, you know, and he's had the privilege to travel and compete at multiple tournaments. I've seen him in other countries or in random locations, and it just seems that the kid is getting everywhere and getting his hands on everyone's hand, and the more experience he gets, the more of course he's going to be, dude. You might see him calling out some big names in the next 2 years. And
he came in big too. You know what I mean? He put some size on. He was a big boy just today. Was like, whoo, he's definitely been working out, put some size on, and definitely has more experience than Larry. Again, the bodybuilder versus technique. It's technique that's always prevailing over it because the bodybuilder still doesn't know how to use their hand in the right way to use their power and their leverage, you know. So
but one thing I think about Larry as well is that he lacks the fascia connective tissue strength that takes time to develop. Your tendons, it's something, it's like a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20, 25-year dedication to practice, that the tendons specifically in here to keep your hand up, and these tendons in here, this is what allows your hand to stay up. And once these tendons get strengthened for him, he'll be a better puller. But for now, you see him doing this stuff and this, and there's no wrist to back his muscles up. And another thing is he's probably used to just pushing really strong weight, and then when he is curling, his fulcrum isn't at the point where arm wrestling utilizes the fulcrum, which is actually with like an elbow up pulling back in this motion, you know, with lat engagement versus rising with weight, you know. So
he's not connected, that's for sure. He definitely needs to figure out the points, connect them. and then he's going to be able to start using some leverage, but he definitely isn't connecting them right now. That's kind of like Mendelssohn, Mindy's like he's better than he was, that's for sure. And I think when he comes back, because he's been off, he's
Yeah.
going to be a lot better, because it's like a lot of times those guys, when they're trying to learn, even with new guys, they're bombarded with so many people trying to tell them what to do. I mean, from guys that know what they're doing to guys just learned how to do what they're doing just a couple minutes ago. So
The main thing I've seen guys do is they don't understand isolating these angles and moving from the core, the torso,
yeah,
and keeping this all tight. And then when you lose, kind of like letting your core go versus instead of letting your arm go,
sure.
And I think that you see like Larry's footing was off. He had both of his feet under the table for like a posted top roll that you would
Yeah.
see, for example, like an Hermes Gasparini do, or somebody who's really lanky and tall going straight back. But I just don't think that he has the
They know
genetic
what they're
buildup
doing.
for that move as
Yeah,
well.
they're doing what they're doing. Yeah, guys that set up like that, they're, you know what I mean? They're actually getting cocked and loaded,
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. But yeah, no, he totally didn't know what he was doing,
Then you look at
clearly.
Boy's posture, and it looks like a perfect like Muay Thai boxing stance, like
Yeah.
exactly where you want your feet to be, right where he had like all of his leverage positions were on point,
Yeah.
and he made it look easy, which sucks for Larry because he's really probably putting in a lot of work to grow in the sport, and I'm sure it's only more motivation for him.
100%. I mean, he definitely has the ability, like everybody in the world does. Whether he stays dedicated, yeah. And again, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind he can't be a lot better than he is now. That's for sure. Um,
Well, he's
but yeah, I mean,
definitely he's surrounding himself with the best of the best, bro. So he better do some crazy shit in the next 5 years.
that's the question now. I mean, again, I'm not knocking anybody. There's definitely some really good guys out there showing people what to do. But again, being saturated sometimes is just too much to take in, especially for, again, a guy that's super strong. I mean, you just automatically you figure this guy, I shouldn't be able to hold my elbow on the table. You know what I mean? You should be
Yeah,
able to just
yeah,
pull me out
drag you straight up. Yeah.
like a saplinka. You know what I mean? Let me just sit on my tricep and watch your elbow come up. And these guys, they don't get it. Doesn't, like I said, they don't get that connection for some reason.
Well,
So
it looked like he actually injured his tendons in his bicep near
did it?
the second to last match. You see him come into this open position where he's out like this, and he's trying to kind of get out of the position. And after that, he kind of stops, and you see him put his hand on his arm, and it looked like he hit this tendon in his bicep. Kind of got a little, maybe a partial tear or just a little injury, maybe a sprain, But I think that's again not holding in a locked position, and you start to lose letting your core come back. It's letting your arm open up, and it's like a reverse rep, just tearing everything, like I've had it happen. It hurts like a motherfucker.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. But yeah, no, back to those matches. That's what was so beautiful about it too, right? So we didn't see any of that. Thank
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Like that was a huge concern for me.
Injuries.
Yeah, dead. You know what I mean? It was clean arm wrestling that we
I
weren't
think
gonna.
even Michael took a small injury against Devon, because Devon pushed Michael palm up, and while Michael was palm up, I think something happened in here. And that's the reason he couldn't engage his wrist flexion to get his pronation, something in the first or second match. This is just me.
Mike? Something happened to Mike?
Yeah, that's just me guessing. I'm not saying it could have been like a permanent injury or anything really bad.
Yeah, he would have been all over social media already blaming that.
Blaming it? Yeah.
I'm kidding. But I'm just saying, arm wrestlers we're always blaming injuries. They're usually fake, and we'll, use the excuse for years and then, maybe have surgery one day. So
yeah, but also if you think about it, Michael and Todd in their previous match, like I believe, like my motto in training people and like the concept is always like if you and your opponent have less than like a 10% to 15% variance in strength, technique
Uh-huh.
can come into play and counter strength. But if your opponent has more than 15% more strength than your max fulcrum, for example, like Levon did 154 pounds of back pressure, and let's say that he has, like Devon has, for example, 130 pounds of back pressure, that means that Devon's gonna easily get pinned by Levon off of back pressure if they engage that particular pressure. So I just have this feeling that like strength can be countered by technique, but Devon had more strength, was like easily 20% stronger than Michael, in my opinion. Where
Well,
when
yeah.
you see a person who can go into any technique at will, there has to be like a 15 to 20+% variance in strength, which means that no technique is going to save you in that match other than intentional fouls, pushing your opponent's elbow off the pad, and them calling elbows on the other guy, you know,
Yeah. Again, I
start
mean,
hit.
dominant of the hand, dude. And that's pretty much what I seen. And that's what, I mean, that took the wind right out of a sail, dude. When you can't get or feel like you cannot get in any position to get your power. And Mike got there to a certain extent,
Yeah.
but like, again, Devon stayed underneath his palm, over his hand, and kept control, man. And Mike, I don't care if Mike was stronger at that point, unless his hand was strong enough to obviously overcome that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
I mean, that
no,
difference right there was just
I don't
huge.
I don't think that with Devon's size, once Michael was palm up, there was anything he could do.
Mike?
I felt bad for Mike because Devon just bam, you see Michael's palm like this. And when Mike goes into that losing position, he's like here at like a 40, his hands at like a 45, so he can actually get out of the move. But when you see him go palm up, he's even thinking to himself, like, what the fuck can I do to get out of this position? Like,
Sure.
and I think that's why he was kind of joking around later in the match as well. Like he knew, he was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna have fun with this. Like, no need to get angry and get crazy. Devon's just on a whole other level right now. Like, give him his.
Yeah, funny you said that too, because when they went over the rules, that was the other thing. Because remember, when I talked to you yesterday, that's what I wanted to talk to before the match. But they were saying that in a losing position in his king's move, that he would have to stand up. And then also that even if he rotated further on the table, I don't know if you can see that, but basically rotating it more around the side of the table, being parallel with the side of the table, that would be still considered losing position. So I was like, oh, there goes the defense totally. Like he's fucked, dude. You know what I mean? He's not going to sit there and be able to camp out. And again, with those pads at regulation, there's nowhere to hide. When you got that extra 2 inches to drag, whew, what a difference.
Yeah.
And those guys having bigger arms, maybe that works out for them. But I mean, I like the matches with those two on that table much better.
Yeah, than what we saw at WAL. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
The wall match was definitely sloppy, and it definitely did compromise the integrity of our sport.
Yeah.
You look back at it and you kind of watch the match. It was crazy, like all over the table, all over the place, under the table.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame Bart. You know what I mean? You can't blame the officials because they're being dictated or told what to do.
Oh yeah, he's just working the rules. You know what I mean? And this is one thing that I've been trying to like come up with as a ref, and it's just like the rules have to evolve in accordance to how athletes are learning how to manipulate the rules. So every generation of arm wrestlers, as rules come through, they have to learn the nuances of the rules and how to manipulate them just a little bit so they can get that 5% advantage. I experienced it when I went to Europe because I had never competed under European referees. And then when I competed under European referees, they were like a whole different world, bro. And I was like, wow, I'm getting fouled out every 2 seconds. Like, this sucks, you know?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I feel there needs to be a clarity of what level a referee is, what that entails, what they're capable of doing, you know, and we need to bring a clarity to this to the whole community And I think in the same
Absolutely.
essence, like arm wrestlers also
100%.
need that clarity as well, because there are a lot of amateurs that go compete against pros and get injured. There's a lot of pros that compete against larger weight classes and get injured, and there should be a little more clarity of like, you're ranked like this. It's still kind of broken up in states, and be interesting to see how they could actually put together a system one day, maybe that accurately ranks people accurately.
Hey, we're working on it, right? We're
Yeah,
working on it. So hopefully, again, I keep preaching unity. Hopefully we can all come together and figure out somehow to encompass it all and protect everything that's under arm wrestling, because we all want the same thing. I mean, most of us do. I'm not going to say all, because a lot of people are satisfied with the way things are. And to me, that's completely amateur, hobbyish. Hopefully one day our plan is for arm wrestlers to make a living at arm wrestling, not just a few, a lot of them. Professional teams, all that stuff can all be, it's all possible. And let's just keep pushing and being positive and
well,
keep
good.
right
Here's
track.
here's an example of harsh realities. So they publish this pay-per-view, and a person like me goes to try and buy the pay-per-view, and for some reason the page is giving me an error, and I can't even purchase the damn pay-per-view. And then someone like Jody, and I know there were a few other people that are online that they provided, some of people the ability to watch the matches, and he got a lot of scrutiny for it, and I feel bad for Jody. Like he's essentially like a commentator for the sport. So he's just giving his opinion on the matches. He's playing the matches. He's giving a lot of people an opportunity to watch the matches that probably couldn't afford to pay the matches in a COVID epidemic financial crisis where half of the country's on unemployment. Like,
hey, if you weren't at work, then you're on unemployment. Obviously, because a lot of motherfuckers ain't. We're sitting there at home watching it. So, if again, it wasn't that much. $8 isn't a lot, but like you said, I was last minute. I had a little bit of trouble, and then I ended up watching Jody's with you, with mine on 2 phones, and watching and listening to Jody pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, because you had a different perspective too.
Like
you got all the people telling you what they think is going to happen. It's kind of a little more interesting.
Yeah, that was nice too.
It'd be nice if in that pay-per-view there's like a big chat feed, and then they have like other commentators that you could like. I love Neil Pickup, he's a great guy, but you could shut him up for 5 minutes and maybe listen to Travis talk shit, and then shut him up and maybe listen to Cobra, and then shut him up and maybe listen to like Bob Brown say that like you're destroying the sport. Jody, like whatever, like shit.
You're killing us, man. You're holding us back, dude.
Yeah.
$8. I mean, I do get that point of view, but let's be honest. We're this big, I keep saying it, we're a speck. We're nothing.
I think Bob's perspective is that you're taking money away from the athletes that could potentially produce more revenue, and that extra revenue could potentially produce another event in the future, and then it would essentially perpetuate a cycle of growth. And by athletes taking that content, it essentially reduces it. But Igor Mazarenko encountered this with Zloty. He tried to pay-per-view it, and athletes took it, chopped it up, threw it on Facebook Live. I can watch fucking UFC for free. All the pay-per-view UFC is on Facebook for live, so there's no way of managing it. It's
not just arm wrestling. Obviously, it's almost inevitable. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. It's going to leak. Again, my personal view is if Jody didn't air it, a lot of people would have never watched it, period, until eventually they just came across it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which essentially that's what's going to get them their most views anyhow, probably, hopefully. But I don't think he did a bad thing, again, because we're this big. And if he's got people that are watching that he's friends with that are outside of arm wrestling, and that's the key with everybody right now, listen up. If you don't share your arm wrestling outside of your arm wrestling friends, nobody's going to know about it. You're going to keep hearing that same thing. Like, I didn't even know there was such a thing.
That's why WAL was I mean, they did a pretty damn good job at promoting the sport.
It definitely did.
And you had Game of Arms right beforehand that they kind of just like branched right into the WAL family, and it just
Yeah, that was hand in hand. That was a vein, So yeah, I mean, 100% agree. I think it all helped, good and bad. The way Game of Arms is like, I was just talking to Cobra, we were laughing our asses off because, I was down there when they were filming the final episode, and Luke hadn't even put his elbow down. And Steve Black, who I didn't realize was the ref back then, but now know, that was Steve Black. But he says go, and Luke basically just comes down on Cobra's arm and beats him. And Cobra's like, "Are you gonna give me a fucking jar of Vaseline next time you fuck me like that?" or something like that. It was perfect, And of course, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, but it's all fake anyways. But I was just like, what the fuck was that? And I was thinking, this is going to be the stupidest thing ever on TV. I'm embarrassed. I swear to God, that's what I thought. And then as soon as they filmed it, edited it, the crew that they had that made that from The Deadliest Catch, forget the director's name, but the cinematography, we were talking, it made it. You know what I mean? The cinematography was
on point.
Man. And
The only thing
that's what drew you in.
What I remember from Game of Arms, the thing that it had a lot of potential. It was on after Walking Dead. So they said that like 60 million people were watching Walking Dead, and they were hoping that they could keep a percentage of those people on the channel to watch the AMC show. And the first episode had only like 2 million people stay on the channel. So think about it. That means 58 million people changed the channel from AMC. And then every episode after that only had about 300,000 to 400,000 views. So it took away the incentive for AMC to continue publishing the show. And it had,
I didn't know that. I thought it was the other way around. The way I saw it was, I mean, they had it broke their record for a debut show, like the first episode. It broke the record for any AMC show they had, and then they never even had a sports show, let alone a reality show on AMC. So those two barriers were huge, for them to carry it. And that's, I mean, from my understanding is that they just didn't want to do any more reality TV. And I haven't seen any on AMC since then.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I know for a fact that people were buzzing about it at work, at the studios, grips and cameraman. I'd hear talking about these guys, and I was like, I've talked about this, but I was like, I was tripping. Like, these guys are talking about Travis and Devon. I'm like,
well, last year around October, November, there were whispers of another season of Game of Arms, actually.
Yeah.
And nothing happened completely thus far. I don't know if things will come to fruition, but
yeah, with COVID, obviously COVID's still kind of like, it's not done with us completely, but I think we're on our way back to, hopefully having some
normal,
normalcy. Unfortunately, the arm wrestling, it's weird because the arm wrestling world, let's just say the United States, there is so many tournaments and it's so saturated. But the truth is that really, if arm wrestling was bigger, it wouldn't matter. If you had a tournament in Vegas, I had a tournament here, and then you had a tournament in Arizona, there should be enough people, right, just in that state alone to make you satisfied with your tournament and be promoting the sport. That would be normal, and that's what it should be. And hopefully this is what we're growing to now. But again, we need organization. You know what I mean? We need to connect the dots, and like
you have a lot of small community groups right now. So like in Texas, you have a community of athletes in Texas with some referees, and they kind of have their thing going. And then you have something in California where there's a group of athletes that kind of come together, in Vegas, athletes that come together. But essentially there's nothing directing all these guys right now. If Leonard comes into town, they'll have an event with Leonard. If Bill Collins comes into town, they'll have an event with Bill. If
Yeah.
Igor or whoever comes into town and offers an event, essentially athletes are willing to compete with anybody, and that's a good thing. But in the same sense, it creates this monopoly, this essential who can throw the best tournaments, who can give the best prizes, who can give the most money, and then it creates the incentive of athletes to go for money. When I was younger and I got into the sport, and when you were probably in the sport, there was a time where most athletes didn't get paid. Most of the athletes went to the tournament, they competed, they paid out of pocket to get there, and they competed out of honor to see who would be the best. Similar to the joke that me and you make about like people holding on. Like an honorable arm wrestler is gonna hold on. He doesn't want to go the straps. He wants to fucking see whose hand is stronger. Like let's fucking clamp and see what the fuck's gonna happen, you know? And
Without a handicap.
yeah, you know, so that's just one of those things, bro. And it's interesting to see how the sport's evolving. I really just hope that we can train the next generation properly, you know, because
I think we can, dude. I think we can. I think, you know, between you and I, and we talk all the time, and I know what a great instructor you are and how knowledgeable you are. I know my experience and my knowledge. So, and we're trying, I think what we're trying to teach is the fundamentals of real arm wrestling. You know what I mean? Real technique, real styles. And I know, again, I don't want to, like, I'm going to say other guys that are out there teaching, just stay on track of being honorable. You know what I mean? Don't teach guys how to slip, how to let go, how to get into a rematch.
oh, I don't have the cleanest. I don't have the cleanest record myself. I have to be honest. There have been tournaments that I've been in that the guy was stronger than me, and I won the tournament or placed higher than the other guys because I pushed an elbow off the pad intentionally. You know, and the ref knew it, but because it fell within the guidelines of it's your responsibility to keep your elbow on the pad.
100%.
It was my opponent's responsibility to keep their elbow on the pad, and I just knew that while the guy was dragging back, that his elbow was susceptible to being pushed off, you know, and yeah, he was stronger. He put me in a negative position, but I beat him, you know, both hands. And it's one of those things where sometimes competition gets the best of you. You want to be the best. You want to.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about
dirty, you know, and I teach my students sometimes, even as a referee, I teach my students, I'm like, yeah, you could do this and maybe you can get away with it. See if the ref catches it, you know, like shit. Like
yeah, heat of the moment. You know what I mean? It's like do or die sometimes. You're like, man, I'm about to tap out. I gotta try something.
Yeah.
And it's a little desperation too. As long as you don't, obviously, as long as you don't push your limits and hurt yourself, that's the most crucial thing. Obviously, it's not getting vulnerable to hurting yourself just because you want to win.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's arm wrestling is an honorable sport. You know what I mean? We can sit there and talk about sports, but the reality is arm wrestling was around long before any ball or, you know what I mean? Or fucking rock was, you know, created to throw around. They fucking ripped up and tug of war, you know what I mean? And arm wrestle and wrestle.
Our random match to bring up was Oleg versus Ilya.
Yeah.
Sado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was that one. I've seen Oleg's career path just doing this. Like on
so let's hold up right here for a second. So this is like a good segment to stop, and then we can talk about these matches. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So now, because we're just kind of prolonging